So my name is Irene. It's a pleasure to be here and represent CoinRabbit, an all-in-one investment platform with crypto loans, crypto wallets, crypto exchanges, and our main mission is to make crypto accessible and easy for everyone. And today we've got an exciting opportunity to explore one of the most innovative and research-driven blockchain ecosystems, the Cardano Foundation. And we are joined by Jide Fashola, Global Financial Infrastructure Lead at the Cardano Foundation. Hi, Jide. Thank you so much for making the time to connect. Really glad to have you here.
Pleasure
And
is mine. Happy to be here.
yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your role in the Cardano Foundation.
Um, so particularly, I look after relationships with financial institutions to foster the adoption of ADA and Cardano native tokens, as well as foster better relationship with our ecosystem and the financial institutions. Um, yeah, so that's what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah, great. And I think you're the best person to talk about everything from how Cardano keeps its community and developers aligned to its vision for the future and overall. And let's jump right into it. And I want to start by looking at the big picture. So Cardano's ecosystem is huge and it is growing fast. These developers and projects building all over the world. And I'm actually interested, how do you ensure that all this stays coordinated and aligned? What kind of team structures or maybe workflows do you use to execute effectively across such a wide range of initiatives?
Thanks for the question. So we facilitate coordination through several key avenues. Um, Developer portal would be one of those. So the developer portal is a central hub for knowledge, resources, tools, and project showcasing. And it's a joint effort from the developers in our ecosystem, as well as the community team and Cardano Foundation. So the whole point of this developer portal is to offer educational resources, development tools, best practices, and supports for developers that are looking to build and understand how our ecosystem works. Um, we also recently launched a Venture Hub pilot program that basically helps establish projects in our ecosystem, from a technical perspective to marketing and PR to legal, whatever it is that they need to get to where they want to be. The Venture Hub facilitates that process, which is led by the Cardano Academy team. We also have the open source element because Cardano Foundation, we build quite a few projects and they're all open source, which basically encourages widespread participation. So the tools that we build, developers basically can go into them, have a look at how we built them, and use that as the learning curve to repurpose or to build and accelerate their own projects. We also do an annual developer survey, and we're looking to do one later this year. And the whole purpose of it is to understand the evolving needs and sentiment of the Cardano developer community. The survey helps us identify challenges in tooling, documentation, and the overall developer experiences. Um, these key findings often highlight a reliance on a limited set of tools and a need for improved standardized resources, particularly around the EU TXO model, because that's something that a lot of our developers struggle with. Um, so the survey would really inform us on efforts to help us optimize our development support, allocate resources effectively, and foster a more robust and accessible Cardano ecosystem. On the workflow side of things, I would say, again, the Venture Hub would be a good structure, as it's a structured support program, which is currently in play today and people are utilizing. We have about 4 projects we're helping there. That number is supposed to increase over time, of course. There is the transparent communication side. Of course, we let developers know what we are doing. We engage with the community through various channels, including reports, as aforementioned, blog posts, and we ensure transparency on the roadmap progress. I know, well, I mentioned the developer survey as well. And lastly would be Catalyst, which fosters decentralized decision making. And this enables the community to collectively decide on funding and development priorities. So earlier this year, we released the second and final version of Voltaire Era, which introduces on-chain governance that enables the Cardano ecosystem to vote on the future advancements of the protocol, as well as to vote on projects to be funded on the protocol because they have access to the treasury as well. So that would be my answer for your question. To your question.
Thank you so much for clarifying this structure and thought behind the scenes. And what if we just zoom in a bit and talk about the early stage teams and all those builders who are just getting started? Maybe you can tell us more. There's a specific focus on this particular group. How does the foundation help them gain visibility and feel supported from the very day one?
From a support perspective, it's multi-tiered. So what we typically do when we meet people that don't know anything about Cardano is we know that education is sacrosanct to what we are trying to achieve here. Therefore, we point them to our Cardano Academy as the first point, because the Cardano Academy gives you a full understanding of why blockchain and crypto are here in the first place, and also educates you on Cardano blockchain. So once you finish the course, you're able to actually prove that you understand how Cardano blockchain works. So we point them to our educational resources. So the foundation actively equips diverse audiences from newcomers and developers to regulators with the resource, which would be Cardano Academy in this case, needed to help them engage meaningfully with blockchain. We also obviously talk to them directly. So the community team, integrations team, and business development team, which is the team I'm on, we actively engage with projects. We provide them guidance and pertinent knowledge on best practices and what to do to build on Cardano blockchain. There's also Project Catalyst, as aforementioned. Project Catalyst is the primary mechanism for financial support, allowing early stage projects to secure funding directly from the community. We funded over 2,000 projects to date, with over 150 million ADA as well as been distributed for those projects. We also help projects with the likes of Developer Spotlight from a PR and amplification perspective. So the Developer Spotlight, the community team, they conduct interviews with projects so that the ecosystem can get to know the people behind these projects. And the interviews are then placed on developer portals, the developer portal, which is under the blog section. So developer portal, as aforementioned, is where you can go to see all the different tools and materials that Cardano Foundation provides to developers to facilitate their build. We recently started something called Developer Office Hours on Twitter, and it's led by the product and community team. It's a regular series of online sessions that designed to support and engage the community. And these sessions basically serve as a valuable resource for developers building on Cardano blockchain because they can ask deep technical questions. They get to hear updates and announcements of what we're working on and where we are with them. And, of course, they can ask whatever questions they have and get answers because we have the core developers on Cardano blockchain on these developer office hours. Now, of course, when the projects build and they're ready to go, and we are also in touch with them, what we help with is the marketing and PR amplification side of things. So that goes without saying, posting on social media, helping them explain to the community what they are looking to solve and how they can potentially purchase or utilize the specific solution. We also recently started the case study piece on our website. So the case study, the point of that is for people to go there and understand how they can build these different solutions on Cardano blockchain based off what already exists today. Um, so if you go on our website right now, you see the likes of case studies done on Masumi, Tokenant, Bonisi, the track and trace solution, Veritree, and Epoch Sports. Now we're going to continue building on these case studies to really amplify these projects and the solutions that they solve. And lastly, of course, you also have the events and meetups. So there, we do quite a few hackathons. We do a lot of events where people can come and showcase the projects. I work very closely with financial institutions that do a lot of events as well. Projects can come to these events and amplify their solution there and get more clients and talk to VCs and whoever it is they need to push their product forward.
Yeah, this particular focus on the educational aspect is totally understandable since Cardano Foundation has a reputation for being deeply academic, and I think actually a lot of people admire that. But if we go deeper, how do you think, how does that research-driven approach play out in everyday decision-making, and how do you balance research with the need to ship production-level tech?
So I think I would say we have a very unique approach to interoperability, and it's rooted in our layered architecture and history. If you look at Charles Hoskinson's whiteboard video, he clearly depicts exactly why Cardano blockchain was developed and why interoperability is very important for us. Now, recently, you've been hearing the talks about Midnight. And Midnight is a partner chain, right, developed separately to Cardano blockchain. So Midnight is a prime example of a partner chain that is designed as a data protection oriented sidechain that enables developers to build dApps with varying levels of privacy and compliance, facilitating interactions with other networks. So Midnight is currently leverages the substrate network to provide data protection features, because in order to really amplify the public private relationship or public private sector connection, the privacy element is very important and is sacrosanct to actually achieving whatever it is that we're trying to achieve here, because data protection, selective disclosure, these are very important to actually achieve our goals here. Now, Midnight uses the ZK proofs for data protection, and it also operates based off two tokens: the Night, which is an unshielded token, and Dust, which is shielded. So the Dust would be used for transactions on the Midnight blockchain, and Night would be a Cardano native asset that would be used for rewards and incentives. Now, furthermore, on interoperability, we have the concept of bridges and connectors. So one chain would be a perfect example of that. One chain is a bridge that allows you to create a wrapped asset across other ecosystems. Into input endorsers is also very important for us, because we believe, or we know based off our study, that input endorsers would basically improve scalability and throughput, which indirectly contributes to better interoperability by making the mainnet more efficient and handling cross-chain transactions. And of course, we need to continue doing research and development around the interoperability aspect of things, because the ecosystem evolves constantly. And the academic approach that we have ensures that interoperability solutions are built on sound theoretical foundations.
And let's moving forward. And speaking of the research and this academic background, as far as I know, Cardano Foundation has partnered with quite a few universities. And can you elaborate how do you think all those institutions and universities and governments and large enterprises fit into Cardano's vision of decentralization? And what kinds of impact are you seeing from those collaboration?
Sorry, one sec. So, yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm just thinking about the best way to answer it.
Yeah, sure,
Our
take your
Cardano
time.
Foundation, our Cardano Foundation, institutional adoption and adoption from a government perspective is the most important for us right now. Even for a blockchain built on decentralization like Cardano, partnering with governments and established institutions is very vital for widespread adoption and making a real world impact. Although it seems contradictory because our ordeal here is decentralization, but the private and public sectors are more centralized, right? But to truly bring the benefit of blockchain to a broader audience and integrate it into existing systems, um, because institutions today already represent years of stability, right? And therefore, the trust with traditional institutions are essential. So, collaborating with them allows Cardano to leverage the existing reach and legitimacy, and that would really build bridge the gap between decentralized tech and the well entrenched regulated world. This approach would demonstrate the practical value of blockchain beyond the current niche crypto communities, like the likes of pushing forward stablecoins, tokenization. And this will foster more mainstream acceptance and accelerate adoption of blockchain.
Yeah, it's actually very encouraging to see those bridges being built. And decentralization isn't about isolation, but about collaboration with the real world. And maybe that's the kind of maturity the industry needs more of. And just continuing our conversation, I think another interesting topic is sustainability because environmental impact is in everyone's mind these days. And Cardano Foundation is often seen as a leader here. And can you walk us through how you approach, and especially our boards, helps keep things sustainable over the long term?
Well, when we could talk about sustainability, there are two things. It's blockchain sustainability and sustainability of blockchain. So I'll talk about blockchain sustainability here because you're referring to our boss. So our fundamental long-term sustainability of blockchain is built upon our consensus mechanism, which is our boss. It's a core differentiator directly addresses environmental concerns associated with other blockchains like the proof of work based blockchains. I'm not going to say any names. So Ouroboros is designed to be highly decentralized, distributing control among stakeholders. This contributes to network resilience and long-term viability by reducing single points of failure and promoting broad participation. And that's why right now you have over 900 stake pool operators on Cardano blockchain, coupled with the new concept of delegated representatives that we've recently introduced to facilitate on-chain governance. As the blockchain scales, energy consumption should also remain relatively constant, unlike proof of work, which would see more energy demand increase with network growth. So this obviously inherently contributes directly to the long-term sustainability of Cardano blockchain and proof of stake blockchains, to be honest. So our long-term focus on particularly scalability and governance would aim to further enhance the network's efficiency and adaptability by ensuring long-term ability to evolve and meet future demands without compromising its environmental commitments. Because now that we have governance in place, we wouldn't have a problem where people wouldn't agree on certain things. The governance is put in place to allow people to amicably agree on certain things and move forward diligently. So in essence, Ouroboros is the bedrock of Cardano's environmental sustainability, providing an energy efficient and scalable foundation upon which the entire ecosystem is built. So this design addresses one of the most pressing concerns in the blockchain space, which is sustainability.
Thank you so much for sharing and clarifying your particular approach. And let's just say I'm a developer or entrepreneur listening to the recording or listening the live NA, and I'm thinking like maybe I should build on Cardano, or maybe I should explore all the possibilities and opportunities. And what would your advice be? Like what resources or support systems should I know about? Maybe you can share a little bit details.
Thanks for asking that question. That's something that we have some issues with because we have so many different tools available out there. And when developers go do their research, they're always perplexed as to where to start or what tools they should start building with. Um, so what we've done is we set up the developer portal, as I aforementioned at the start of this call. And developer portal again is a hub for all the technical documentations that you can familiarize yourself with. So we also have libraries and SDKs in different programming languages like JavaScript, Python, Rust, Java, .NET, Ruby. They're all available to facilitate integration. Also, we have APIs like Blockfrost API that is easy for you to just plug and play. As a developer, I would advise for you to start there. To perhaps accelerate your development process, it really depends on how dirty you want to get your hands. I would say you should also look into Demeter. That's Demeter. It's a software platform designed to streamline dApp development on Cardano. So it offers access to node developer tools like databases, DBSync, Ogmios, and starter kits. Demeter depends on where you are in your knowledge in Cardano and blockchain space as a whole. It's a good place to start, to be honest. Now, when I first started working in Cardano, or when I started looking into Cardano, the very first thing I did was to go through the research papers. So IOG, as you know, they lean towards academic research a lot. For all the different components that we work on, we do academic research around them. So if you go to IOG research papers, you can just Google IOG research papers. You would see we have over 100 research papers there. And at the time I started working in Cardano, I had to go through the likes of Ouroboros research paper, UTXO research paper, and also a few other research papers to give me a full understanding of how Cardano works. I would advise to also go through that process and do a little bit of research so you get the full background as to what is UTXO, why is it good, why is it different to account-based models, and how can you use it in your applications. Now, on the flip side, if you don't want to use or read research papers, and you've passed that stage, because I feel like with the introduction of ChatGPT and Gemini, people don't like to read as much anymore. You could go through our academy, which is free. So if you go to cardanofoundation.org, you would see education. If you click on that, it will take you to Cardano Academy, where you could sign up for free and you could do the course for free. We only charge X amount, I think $50 to $100, to get your Pearson-based certificate, which is on chain. Or you could do both, depends on how much time you have. But I would advise to actually do both. Go through the research papers and do the Cardano Academy. It might be a lot of work, but depends on who you are and how you like to go about things. But personally, that's what I would do. I would also look into how native assets and metadata works. You could probably find that in the research papers as well. I'm pretty sure it talks about that in the UTXO model. But it's very important to understand that, because with the native assets on Cardano, you don't require smart contracts as you do with other ecosystems, which is a very, very important point. Coupled with the fact that you are able to append data onto your transactions on Cardano, right? Which means, for example, I could create a end-to-end supply chain traceability solution on Cardano without needing a smart contract, because in this case, what I need to do is prove and show that, okay, this item was built and was produced by X supplier, X producer, right? You can put all of that data in your metadata. I would also run a node and a wallet, because that also gives you a good understanding, because you're getting your hands dirty. It gives you a good understanding on how to run the node and the wallet and how to interact with it. Now, you don't necessarily need to do that. I just did it because, I've been in the space in Cardano Foundation 5 years now. So when I first joined, that was the first thing I did, was to run a node and a wallet. And back then it was very, very hard to do it. So now it's so much easier, and you have so many different tools that you can use to or even APIs that you don't need to run a node and a wallet. But I just put that there because I think it's valuable to do it. Now, with the smart contract side of things, since Plutus, which is the Haskell-based programming language, we've actually evolved since then. Because I know a lot of people are refrain from using Cardano smart contracts simply because they don't understand Haskell. It's so hard, etc., etc., etc. So there's a new programming language, or two new programming languages. The first one is called Aiken, which is a purely functional language, and it draws aspiration from languages like Rust and ELM, and is specifically tailored for the EUTXO model of Cardano. Based off my experience from talking to developers, they really prefer Aiken over Plutus and any other language. Helios is also another functional, strongly typed DSL. That's a domain-specific language that compiles to Plutus core. A few more things. Of course, if you're building a project, you would need to get funded. And if you're building a project on Cardano, I would advise, instead of just building another DeFi clone or a DEX, I would advise to look into building a real-world solution, like, say, a tokenization platform, like a healthcare solution, Metabus, that allows people to plug into the healthcare Metabus, and it basically helps them with their day-to-day operations without them knowing anything about blockchain. For example, is what we've done with, or what we're looking to do with the Originate track and trace solution frame protocol. I'll focus on having better user experiences, because that is one thing that is stifling growth and adoption today. The user experience is not great. People don't want to know certain things like mnemonics. I know some projects are looking to change that, but it hasn't been as wide scale as I hoped it would have been at this point. So yeah, I advise people to look into making Web 2 based UXs that is easy for people to understand and digest. If you have any questions, of course, you can always feel free to reach out to myself or anyone in the Cardano Foundation team who would point you to the right direction. We also have public spaces that you could ask questions, like Cardano Stack Exchange, the GitHub repository as well as there, where you can check open source codes for Cardano components. From the community perspective, we have our summit actually this year, November 12th to 13th. And if you want to understand in detail who we are, what we do, where we are going, where we've been, it would be great for you to come to the summit this year. It's in Berlin, Germany. I think details have been announced and it's public anyway, so you could have a look at our website, the Cardano Summit website, for more information. We also do meetups, local meetups, and networking where people share ideas and learnings. And there's also the ambassador program where you can become or you have an opportunity to engage more deeply with the community and contribute to its growth. Um,
Yeah, this openness is very encouraging. And thank you for sharing all those specifics and also your personal experience, because I'm sure Cardano enthusiasts who are just getting started, like those first steps are the most difficult. But this is support, and by understanding another experience, it could be much more easier for them. And yeah, very gently, we are going to last but not least question. And looking ahead, what are some of the biggest upcoming milestones or developments that the community should be excited about? Can you share some interesting news and insights about that?
So there's a lot happening in Cardano at the moment. It's very exciting, and also there's a lot happening outside of Cardano ecosystem, which eventually would be merged with the emerging technology, which is blockchain. And what I'm referring to there is the likes of IoT, quantum computing, robotics, and so on. How would they merge with blockchain eventually? But I'll keep that separate. But from a Cardano blockchain perspective, as you know, our proof of stake is Ouroboros, and Ouroboros has many flavors. Ouroboros has been evolving ever since it was developed many years ago. So the next major flavor of Ouroboros that Cardano has actually been working on and discussing is Ouroboros Leos. Leos represents a significant leap forward in scalability and is often described as the capstone of years of Ouroboros research and development. So the core innovation of Ouroboros Leos is, instead of a single linear chain of blocks as we do have today, Leos would introduce the concept of input blocks, IBs, that can be created and processed in parallel. These IBs, input blocks, are then endorsed by stake pool operators, SPOs, as we call them, and eventually aggregated into something called RBs, which are ranking blocks that then determine the final order. I know that sounds very technical. If you want to read more about it, I could provide more information, but on a very high level, that's what that is. And this parallelization is what allows for a dramatic increase in transaction throughput. So the goal of Leos, in a nutshell, is to significantly enhance Cardano's transactions per second, TPS capabilities, while simultaneously showing the potential for thousands of TPS. Some even say maybe over 11,000 TPS, as this is crucial for handling the kind of transaction volumes required for global adoption. There's also Ouroboros Paris, which we are currently working on. That is going to be the next flavor after Ouroboros Praus. And Ouroboros Paris is an extension of the existing Ouroboros Praus, and its primary aim is to dramatically accelerate transaction settlement times, bringing them down to approximately 2 minutes. Now, this could change, by the way. And this is a crucial improvement because as faster finality significantly increases user confidence in transactions and enhances the usability of the network for real-world applications where timely confirmation is needed. For example, if you go to the store and you want to buy a cup of coffee and you tap your card, ADA card, for example, in this case, right? You expect the transaction to settle straight away. Or if you're doing a trade, you expect the transaction to settle straight away. This is how Paris would actually help things better. Now, more concepts like Hydra, which is a layer 2 scaling solution. Now, Hydra has been in development for many years. It's usable now, and it would increase our transaction processing off chain by making network suitable for high volume applications. So last year in Singapore, if memory proves me right, either Singapore or at Cardano Summit, the IOG team set up the Doom game. So Doom is a very, very old game. For gamers, they would know what I'm referring to. So they put the Doom game on Hydra heads, and every frame was a transaction. So at the peak, they were able to get 1 million transactions per second on Hydra playing Doom game, which is amazing, in my humble opinion. Now that just goes to show how much TPS can be achieved on Hydra. There's also the element of the partner chains. So Midnight is the first partner chain on Cardano blockchain, and Midnight is privacy focused and will be crucial for enterprise adoption and robust interoperability. They're going to do their airdrops, or their airdrop is planned to happen in a couple of weeks from today. So keep an eye out for that. Another concept that I'm particularly looking forward to, and the research paper was released early last year, is bubble fees. So on Cardano, you are able to pay transactions the bubble fee will allow any user to pay transaction fees in any token that they hold instead of just being limited to ADA. And that is achieved through a mechanism where users offer a native token equivalent of the ADA fees, and an SPO or any other liquidity provider would then match this by covering the ADA fee in exchange for the offered token. And this innovation would significantly improve user experience and accessibility by providing more utility for Cardano's vast array of native assets. There's also the cool concept of quantum computing readiness and quantum agility. That's a very big and nuanced topic, but it's something that I think we should really keep an eye out for, because quantum computing is coming, and our blockchain has to be quantum agile to ensure that our blockchain is not vulnerable once quantum computing is out in the world. So Charles Hoskinson actually discussed this the other day, and what he envisioned was a 3-step plan approach to transition Cardano into a fully quantum resistant system over the years. So he spoke of the concept of developing a quantum secure model, which basically is the process of auditing all algorithms used on Cardano for potential vulnerabilities against a quantum adversary. The second step would be to separate Cardano into 2 pieces. So Cardano blockchain as is, and then a proof chain. And that would basically serve as an immutable checkpoint system for Cardano's main chain without immediately disrupting for performance. And the full integration would be the merging of the 2 chains and adopting post-quantum VRF. VRF is what we use today on transactions when we're selecting the new stake pool operator and so on. It's called a verifiable random function, and signature schemes throughout the main chain once the schemes become more efficient and gain hardware support. And the last thing I would say that is very exciting would be the concept of IBC chain. So IBC is inter-blockchain communication, and is a protocol for secure, permissionless, and reliable data value transfer between independent blockchains. Think of it as your TCP/IP of blockchains today. Instead of relying on a trusted third-party bridge, IBC uses light clients on each chain to verify the state of other chains, ensuring trust minimized communication. So CF in collaboration with IOG and other ecosystem participants have been working diligently and hard, very hard to integrate IBC capabilities on Cardano. And what's particularly interesting about this is we would basically gain access to this huge interchain ecosystem. So we it's termed or it's coined as the Internet of Blockchains. So that would mean that we can then seamlessly transfer assets and cross-chain DApp interactions and data exchanges with a wide array of specialized blockchains. And yeah, there's also the developer opportunities that would arise from that. Because now, as a developer, I'm not just isolated to Cardano blockchain. I can now build a dApp that would interact with services and assets on other IBC compatible chains, opening up a huge and new economy and possibility for cross-chain innovation. So yeah, these are the things I'm looking forward to, and I'm very excited about the future of them to see how they would change this landscape of crypto and blockchain.
Yeah, just unbelievable how many developments and events are coming. And I know that our time is limited, but if some particular development is interesting for our listeners, they can use open sources or go directly to Cardano Foundation social media channels and ask any questions just to understand the agenda better. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Or you
unfortunately,
can just ping me directly. I'm more
yeah,
than happy to help.
yeah, I'm still impressed by this openness and your desire to be so open and go to this contact. And yeah, I want to give a huge thank you to Jide from the Cardano Foundation for sharing his time, insights, and vision. And yeah, we have been talking about this MEA session for quite a while, and it's great that we finally made it happen. And I hope that everyone listening will go with inspiration to learn more or start building. And I think that now is the time, if you are interested, to know more and to join the Cardano ecosystem. And if you need a fast, flexible way to unlock liquidity from your crypto, you can also see what we are building at CoinRabbit. And thanks again to everyone who tuned in or who is listening the recording. And thank you once again, Jide. And hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone on the call.
Yeah. Thank you.
All
Bye
right.
bye.